neck and neck happens. On the inside, Barkow burying the bounce. I think there's contact between the rack and the pole.
Birthplace of stadium sailing for over 20 years racing tour. Welcome to the final day of the GKSS Match Cup Sweden right here in Marstrand. Hi, I'm your host Tucker Thompson along with two-time match racing world champion Simon Shaw. And Simon, we started out racing this morning with 4 semifinalists. We are now down to the top 2 teams. But let's look at how the racing went down, beginning with Taylor Canfield. He was up against longtime arch rival Ian Williams.
I mean, that's a match really to sort of celebrate and to embrace really the history here in Marstrand, and you know, it did not disappoint. Taylor Canfield went out and you know, we had 2 races that were really tight, nip and tuck. Williams had opportunities to take both, but in the end Canfield holding on to the lead, taking those first 2, and I think riding that momentum into a third actually cleaned out Ian Williams 3-0. So, you know, be of no mistake, Taylor Canfield is going to come into the final in super duper top form.
You know, I have to be honest with you, Simon. I know that you've match raced a lot with Ian Williams. I would have never put money on the fact that he went out without winning a match to Taylor Canfield.
I mean, it's one of those things. The match was actually quite close, but the scoreline here in Marstrand, it's a very compact sailing area, and you know, you have to take opportunities. And you just find if you slip behind, if the opportunities don't present themselves as you want, you know, you lose the match. And he lost the first, he lost the second, and suddenly he's hard on the ropes. And you know, it's tricky for him to respond from there. And Taylor Canfield on the other side, he just kind of came at it and you know, knocked him out of the park.
So interestingly, Taylor Canfield seems to be on a bit of momentum, a bit of a roll. See if he can keep that on into the finals. And speaking of the finals, he's now up against Phil Robertson, current world champion, who won right here in Marstrand last year. But to get there, Phil had to outsail PJ Posma in the semifinals from the Netherlands. This, PJ's best regatta, and you know, PJ took it right to him, didn't he?
I mean, it's a much tighter race course between those 2, and you know, the first 2, it looked like Phil was just going to steamroll him. You know, PJ has improved so much since Perth, the first stage of the World Match Race Tour, and you know, to come in here, he's improved with every race, and you felt like that was happening in the third race, and suddenly it looked like maybe everything could unfold completely differently, but in the end, Phil Robertson just too strong. And again, you know, you're coming up against the current reigning world champion and in the venue where he actually won that world championship. So he's going to be tricky to beat. And, you know, I think we have 2 skippers, Phil Robertson and Taylor Canfield, going head to head really at the very pinnacle of their sailing potential.
So we are set for a fantastic fight for the finals between these 2 top teams here in Marstrand, both former world champions. And how do we get to this point? Well, here's a look back on the entire week's racing. To wrap up match number 1, first blood to Harry Price. Guichard says no penalty on that call to stay in this regatta. He almost had a deal from New Zealand. This is Nicholas Dockheimer and crew sealing the deal to the quarterfinals. Oh, look at that! Mons Homburg almost putting it in. He could go over. He could go over. Homburg.
Williams in the leeward position, looking to try and close down the gauge between the 2, and now leading the acceleration away, and he's going to leave Harry Pry. Can Gilmore cross? Will he be able to get behind? Taylor Canfield already bow up here, and they're going to be head to head here. Cut up, and now it's going to be a dash to the finish. It's all to do here. Both.
Phil Robertson clears off the line in the lead.
Robertson really making that look easy.
Phil Robertson, China 1 Ningbo take race number 2.
Williams looking to try and come across right next to each other. Inches separating the boats as they smoke past each other.
Canfield just squeaks by. He takes race number 2. And so, Simon, here we are, live pictures out on the race course, the south entrance to the Strand Fjord, Sweden. There is the signal boat. Matthias start timing. Phil Robertson's going to be in orange, Taylor Canfield in gray. There are your 2 teams. We are set for the finals.
I mean, sensational, and grey cloud rolling in. But listen, the sun just starting to break out, and the crowds here in Marstrand have packed out the shoreline. There is barely an inch over.
Here we go. Even start. Phil Robertson just gets the jump on Canfield and is up to full speed first.
caught Taylor's boat around Mark champion start.
Now, Canfield told us a few days ago he likes to be just to see if he gets the jump on the jibe.
I love that comment. He likes to be behind. I doubt that. But listen, turning down into his jibe first, leaving the turn away. Phil Robertson coming down on his jibe. And it really feels to me, Robertson doing a nice job of that start and now popping out of that jibe beautifully on to lay line. Taylor Canfield setting up for his jibe.
Both teams will have already determined which way they want to go upwind. It's going to be Robertson that gets the advantage of that choice. Left turn, or left mark rather, heading back upwind, and that's going to leave Canfield with the option to take the right.
Robertson around, heading to the left, and Canfield going for an extra jibe. He'll split across to this side. A little bit of a twist there in the Jenica now. The furling coming on. Now Canfield, we saw him come from behind against Williams. And I just wonder, as Robertson comes through his tack, whether we're going to see the same again.
Well, Robertson is up under those rocky cliffs on the left-hand side of the upwind leg. Canfield, however, is bow forward into some fresh right-hand breeze there left of our screen as we look out over the harbor here in Marstrand.
Together from the right, and I think he may well have closed up a little bit here, flying the hull.
Has he got a piece of Robertson?
No, I think Robertson going to cross, but he has closed up to my judgment by, what, probably 4 or 5 lengths. So and he has the split, so super duper solid sailing from Canfield to break back into the match.
All the way, lads.
That's going to be a hard one to unfurl, okay, boys?
You can hear Canfield talking about the next set's going to be hard to unfurl. Remember what happened there at the leeward mark, a little bit of an unforced error. We'll see if that comes into play. Teams have split. That's Canfield to the far left in gray, and Robertson far right, having just tacked on to starboard here in orange.
2, 1.
Right-hand side, but it's really upbeat and solid, and you feel he's really chewing into Robertson here. He does have probably 25, 30 kilos of crew weight over the New Zealand team as well.
I think we need a slightly more Cunningham on the next beat, don't we?
So coming back, Robertson
just a little bit.
Just holding on to about the same delta into that next cross.
Canfield definitely gaining in these transactions, but the Kiwis are ahead of the Americans. That seems synonymous with another event we've recently seen here in the world of match racing a few weeks ago. Now here in Marstrand, the finals play out in front of us. Race number 1, split again as we approach the top gates.
Great tack for Robertson coming out of the left.
For the cross, good.
We should see Robertson look to take that right-hand mark. Taylor Canfield will take the left. Now Taylor coming back in from the right-hand side. He might well have a piece of Robertson coming back here. We have seen gains on that right-hand side, and the boat's coming together. Phil Robertson looking for the cross, but he's bringing his bow down now, and he's around the top mark just, but very close between these two. Robertson heading off down under the cliffs in a ball of splay. Taylor Canfield rounding the opposite mark, and it is game on here in Marstrand. These two heavyweights trade blows out on the racecourse. And you know what? We have 2 of the most worthy finalists coming in here.
Nice one down here,
1, driving now.
You can hear some frustration aboard Canfield's boat. I'm not sure what that's about. It could be this big right-hand shift that Robertson is riding down the shoreline. But you're right, Simon, it is incredibly close, and Canfield is on the attack.
I think Canfield in a good position there. Robertson.
Broke me on that one, Trevor.
Expecting lift.
He laying in probably, huh?
Really leading this pair down. Still out in front. He's done a nice job of boxing out, making that cross at the top, which he's managed to transcend into perhaps another couple of boat lengths. The crowds up on their feet really as they see Canfield coming down.
3, 2, 1, diving.
Robertson with the jibe, and they're just popping up it through, up onto the foils, and now down.
I can hear Canfield coaxing his crew saying we can do way better than that. Not happy with this position. Race far from over though.
It's too late.
As we head back upwind for the final lap on this race course.
I mean, the crowds here in Marstrand absolutely on the edge. I mean, the whole lot of them stood up. You know, this is stadium sailing absolutely at its greatest.
Good.
America's Cup times 2 really here. 60,000 visitors all pouring onto the island, and every single one of those eyes, that's 120 eyes, all glued out onto the racecourse.
120,000, I think.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was just knocking off the triple zeros.
Simple
Keep
math.
those numbers, 13.
Here we go. Canfield from the left. Having a look at all the fans on shore here in Marstrand.
Copy.
Not too worried about it.
Breeze
Phil
up
Robertson
a little bit here, boys.
shifting in some fresh breeze, but so is Canfield, Simon. I think there's two different puffs on the race course, one to the right where Canfield is, one to the left where Robertson is, and it's a question of who will gain at the next cross.
And you know what, they might have to just sell their own races here a little bit. Robertson just going all the way out to the boundary. I like what both teams doing here.
And good there,
Just sailing their own boats.
Yeah.
There's a light spot for Robertson, and somewhat of a slow tack comparatively to Taylor Canfield, who may have made a small gain here as the teams come back together.
Well, he's made I don't think I quite like Canfield's angle. He's a little bit bowed down. He maybe made a boat speed gain, but the gap pretty much stable between the two boats.
Take me below it, Hayden. Thank you. Trim it on.
And Robertson really kind of tightening his grip on this race at the top of this final upwind leg. Just the reach to the finish tack.
Sam.
Roberts
Front and that Jenica to sail past the line of Taylor Canfield.
See how the spinnaker unfurls this time.
2, 1, shiving.
And Robertson already through his jibe as Canfield rounds.
Love a bit of main sheet.
Good set for Canfield.
Look at that position of Robertson.
In here, okay?
Driving in 3. G save.
Energy save, you hear that? He's already preparing for the loss to Robertson and the next match to come back strong.
Well, this is Phil Robertson's race leading off the start. I mean, that was a great start, and he's just continued to extend down. He's heading now for the shore, underneath the grandstand, underneath the crowds lining the rocks here in Sweden. Robertson, finals. Final, Tucker.
World champion, but Canfield 3, best of 5, and Phil Robertson takes first blood. Play to relive that match. Simon Shaw, here we go.
Well, out of the front, really, this is the defining moment in the match. Phil Robertson faster in that windward position, dominating that pre-start. And then there, that cross. So coming out of that side, Taylor Canfield was close, but Robertson really just managing to slowly eke out distance, managing the race, shepherding him all the way around the racetrack. There you can see there the nosedive on board Taylor Canfield, and they actually having to dump that Jenica and then having to work it all the way back in all the time. Phil Robertson just extending away and then down and through the line. And it was Phil Robertson that takes match 1, and perhaps a tiny bit of the momentum.
Again, I like Canfield just kind of hitting the brakes once the deal was done and Robertson had won the first match. He just slowed down, conserve energy in these incredibly physically intense M32 catamarans, some of the most exciting match racing the World Match Racing Tour has ever seen. So now let's go down to race 1 winner, Phil Robertson.
So Phil Robertson, I mean, a great start, and that looked like that was enough for you just to kind of lock that race down.
Presumably he's agreeing with you, Simon.
The first beat, but managed to lock it in the second beat and extend the lead. So, yeah, probably say that was won and lost in the start, and I guess his mistake on the sort of pin lay line, and it gave us the opportunity to slingshot off the line there.
Taylor had him around those top marks.
Yeah, I'm doing a big nose. It's just to grip it and rip it.
Grip it and rip it. I like that. Hey, Phil, congratulations. This is Tucker Thompson. You know, do you feel you've got a bit of an advantage here in Marstrand, considering how well you sailed there last year, and now you've just won?
I'm running around the island in a fantastic sailing location, and I think ever since growing up racing, this is the dream to be racing here and to win here is amazing. So, hey, we've got full focus on the job we've got to do now. It's only 1-0. It's early days, so yeah, plenty of focus on board, and boys are going to work hard.
Fair enough. I'm sure you guys will. And watch out, because Taylor and crew will be doing the same. Good luck in the next match. Phil Robertson.
And there you just hear one of the interesting points, just talking about almost home match. And, you know, it reminds me a little bit of Wimbledon, and you talk about, say, a Roger Federer or something like that. And, you know, listen, you know, he's from Switzerland, but, you know, some of them have built a real affinity with some of these top sailing venues to a point where they feel like home games.
Well, actually, Phil now lives here in Sweden, so he feels like this is his hometown crowd. He's Kiwi. But as he said, it's only race number 1. And a potential, and you know Taylor Canfield is not going to roll over that easy.
Oh no, I think we're going to see plenty more, and this, you know, this real home crowd here are going to see plenty more of action. And you know, this is what everyone has come here to the island to see. It's this final, it's sailors this close, and you know, this is a real here on the shore.
So I've just received word that we are moments away from the signal strand. And there are the crowds. Simon, my first time here in Marstrand, I've seen that crowd shot so many times. It's impressive how many people come out to watch sailboat racing here in Sweden.
Well, listen, I think they talk about 120,000 visitors across the week, 60,000 people expected on the island today, and every single one of them coming over on the ferry, you know, so making the commute, you know, the whole island. I mean, it's beautiful with people at the grandstands, the people across there just to the right in the VIP hospitality, and there's some sort of VVIP hospitality being run right on the top of the castle. Super duper sailing venue, and you know, that was even a concept. It was happening here in Sweden's #1 sailing regatta, arguably in my view probably the best sailing regatta in the world.
And the fans come out in full force to see this event every year, now in its 23rd year. And I think everybody in Marstrand is out here watching, except maybe the ferry driver back in the harbor there, bringing everybody out to the island. And we are race number in this first to win 3 match finals of the same. I like the sailing styles and the personalities of both of our finalists, Simon. They're both very relaxed. They're both kind of cool cats off the water. But man, when the starting gun fires, the gloves come off. Look for Taylor Canfield to come back in this match quite aggressively. And there's the 3-minute signal, 1 minute away from the entry. Canfield will be entering above that signal boat to its left. There he is on the right-hand side of our screen. In the gray boat, Phil Robertson in orange will be entering below it.
So listen, just as we build up for this start, Canfield coming on into this 1-0 down. We're joined by Mikey Ray. Now, I used to sail with Taylor Canfield on board US1 at the generation of this team. What does Taylor have to do to turn this around?
The boys are feeling pretty good. I had a chat with them before they left the dock earlier, and they just struggled off the start there and kind of followed the rest of the way around.
I think that sentiment shared not just by you, but by everyone out in the United States. And Phil Robertson to enter the start, and you know, I cannot wait to see this action unfold.
There's the 2-minute signal, and we are underway in the pre-start, and that's where it all went down for match number 1. Phil Robertson, look for Taylor Canfield in gray to be aggressive.
Canfield bringing his bow down just along the edge of the rocks, like 2 little fighter jets caught in a dogfight. Canfield brings his bow down now. Phil Robertson stealing the lead, jibing right in front of the line of Canfield, and they're using that rock line, those exclusion zones, to block off that option to attack as Robertson actually circles up into the wind. Now Canfield looking to try and take the inside here. A potential hook for Canfield here coming underneath the line. Can he get through that gap? Just threading it through, and that gives him the lead. So great sailing from Canfield.
Interesting that Robertson didn't really do anything defensively there, just kind of hanging to windward in what is now a pinned position before the start.
Well, I think he thought that there wasn't room for him to get inside, but that gap just opened up, and Canfield used all of his judgment just to sneak that in. And if you like, the hunter has become the hunted, and now Canfield has Robertson absolutely pinned out to the right-hand side as he comes through. Another tack He's just got to make sure he executes well. Robertson now looking for a jibe. Canfield needs to block this turn. If Robertson can get this in, he should have the lead back. And I think Robertson perhaps snatching it back here.
Up we go, on the win.
As Robertson turns around, just completes with slightly crisper boat handling, grabs back the ascendancy, and now it is Robertson's turn to turn the tables back on Canfield, bring his bow up, looking to lock him off to the right-hand side. Final 25 seconds to go, and Robertson has the ascendancy. I think Canfield may be a little bit in irons. Final 19 seconds, and at the moment, this is the Taylor Canfield. Well, Taylor Canfield now starting to move forward.
Here we go, 10 seconds, both boats heading towards the line for the final windup in race number 2. Looks like it's going to be an even start. 3, 2, 1, bang! Looked like a tough position, has won the start, but only just. Robertson's right there.
Well, Robertson now going for a bit of a luff on board Taylor Canfield, flying the hull. He's either just clearing his air out, and we'll see him follow in. But wow, we saw changes in ascendancy. You know, a pre-start like we've almost barely seen in these M32s before there. But now locked horns down the run. Canfield out in front with Robertson right manning the guns on his stern, and they're about to throw it through the jibe. Robertson leading the turn down as Canfield looks to match.
Robertson very aggressive, and it's a good job. Now he'll look to roll Canfield. Canfield holding on to his air forward, but only just.
Great jibe, good response from Canfield. Robertson slightly quicker with the snap of the Jenica, but Canfield held strong between these two teams. Where will the crack appear? It's almost like they're both in first place at the moment. Canfield just holding on to a small lead.
We have got a real battle on our hands, folks. Robertson took the first match. Now Canfield is ahead in match 2, approaching the leeward gates, and we're on board with Canfield.
More trims, Stuart, more trims.
Now the extra jibe. Canfield likes that right-hand side, and he's taken it, and that's given the straight-through rounding to Robertson. Now can he make it work for him? That's the best kind of split, when your opponent actually takes straight and will take out that right-hand side. It has been traditionally good both through the years, and also find a way back into this match as we can.
This first upwind leg, Canfield tacking inshore, looking for some breeze, and he's got it. Look for Robertson to tack from the left. Here comes the cross.
I really like that angle from Canfield. You can already see he looks a little bit bow up, but Robertson coming back. And Canfield is across, but Robertson is very hot on his heels.
Get it now.
A little adjustment to the mainsail on Robertson. He decided to do that bang in the lee of Canfield. So, you know, that level of attention to detail. That's where we don't need the righty moments. We'll just have our man in just for that transition. And now Robertson has the right. And for me, it's most important to have the right in the center of the race course. And this is going to be critical times for Canfield. For me, Robertson may well break back.
Interesting comment there, Simon. So why the middle of the race course would you want to be on starboard tack?
I think it's this is the widest point. And so in my view, almost the most critical cross. It's also where the wind just rolls around. There's a big rock right in the center of the race course. And so they get the max right hand. I think he's gone the right way. We'll see as the boats come back together. Looking for the cross, and I think Taylor Canfield bringing his bow down for a duck. So Robertson has found a way back in this match, and he's made the cross, but only by a whisker.
So our first lead change has Robertson back in front, but Canfield shifting over to the right-hand side. That being said, to my eye, Simon, it looks like some breeze coming from the upper left, and that's where we find Phil Robertson.
Well, there is sometimes something in that upper left. Maybe 40% of the time you see a bit of a lefty over on that far left-hand corner. That's what Robertson would be hoping for. Maybe what you've just spotted in the breeze out there, Tucker. Canfield through the tack on the right-hand side. He'll be coming in. We've also seen slightly better pressure to round that right-hand mark. So if Robertson can cross here and minimize tacks, well, I think he may be a little bit extending away. We'll see.
Remember, he did cross in the last time.
If he tacks, what do we want to do?
So Robertson into a high mode, so he's trying to slow down already, looking to duck Canfield. We'll see. Now he brings the bow down. Taylor Canfield brings his bow down a little bit as well. And we're going to see both boats almost head-to-head. Taylor Canfield looking for the roll. Robertson tacking on the inside. You saw him slow down. And now I think Canfield's going to come around the outside. Now
Robertson closed the door and now is out in front as we head downwind with Canfield breathing right down his neck.
I mean, Robertson has snatched back perhaps, what, 3 seconds of breathing space between these two. I mean, they have been locked horns the whole way around this race course.
Is this not what you'd expect for the finals here in Sweden with these two top teams, both world champions, both at the top of their game, and both want to win.
I mean, definitely wanting to win. You can just sense the hunger on both teams. I really like the mode of Canfield there as he just threw it down into a jibe, almost flying both hulls up on the foils. Robertson looking to extend a little bit away. He should get down to the bottom marks in one from here. Now we saw Canfield take that left-hand mark as we look downwind and come underneath the castle here. Will he do the same again? Oh, the crowd's on their feet every time these sailors come past.
You can hear them cheering as well for both teams. So close as we head into the leeward gates. Phil Robertson has a choice of which way he'll want to go. And he'll choose the left, going back upwind, leaving Canfield to take the right.
I mean, I like that approach. You go around that mark, and you know, if you don't pick up something in that bottom right, you definitely get the middle of the beat. That's what he managed to achieve last time. Canfield going around with the Jenica out, perhaps just a little bit ragged.
Canfield a little bit slow too, had to sail extra distance to get to that opposite mark.
And Robertson already completing his tack up on the hip of Taylor Canfield. So when they both come back together, I think Robertson will have made a gain. It was a nice rounding for him, fast all the way through.
3, 2, 1, tacking now.
And right in and under the grandstand.
Yeah, great.
With 60,000 pairs of eyes all glued out onto the racecourse, Taylor Canfield completes onto starboard. As we just see the bows of Phil Robertson crossing from that left-hand side of the racetrack.
Very slow here, yeah.
Yeah, great. Probably a little bit faster, right?
Boat's not very settled upwind, boys. Need to be more in tune to the puffs.
2, 1.
Don't trim into the puffs, Hayden.
So there, through the tack, Robertson
right in your
on the
ear.
right-hand side.
You hear that tension? That's onboard audio from Taylor Canfield, and he only gets like
Stand
that when
by
he's
here,
behind.
guys,
It's
okay?
a different Taylor when he's ahead.
3, 2, 1.
And you know, Phil Robertson, we
Tacking now.
talked about this a bit last year. He has, what, 4
Yeah,
tacticians
good
on the
there,
boat. He
yeah.
has 4 helmsmen. You know, you could argue that was a recipe for disaster, but my goodness, that team has made that format work. They're, you know, all of them could grab that stick any time and be, you know, competing on this World Match Race Tour. And you know, it's I think that depth of tactical ability combined with Robertson's leadership has constructed an incredible team.
Yeah, copy.
Phil Robertson and his crew of helmsmen doing a beautiful job picking the shifts on this tricky beat here in Marstrand. And that's a lefty that he's just tacked into,
Stand by,
and he's to the left of his opponent.
tacking.
So gains go to Phil Robertson
Easy cross here,
Tacking
right?
now.
Probably just
as he calls for an easy cross on
point.
port into the top mark for the last
Just
time.
good there, side, yeah.
So Robertson tracking back across,
Go deploy. 2. Holding.
easy on the
1.
lay,
Done.
just making this all look super crisp and easy. Bow down at the mark, a little bit of a nosedive.
Good save.
Far off and drive.
You had so much volume at the front of these M32s. You know, it looks kind of scary. It's not fast, but you know, you very rarely see them go nose down.
Yeah.
Now there's Canfield, upper left of screen, having just set and rounded. He'll do a bit of a nosedive as well and save it.
1.
Now he's just going to gamble everything on that far left-hand side as we look upwind. We're on board with Canfield.
2.
He's got one jibe,
1. Jibing now.
and it's got to be perfect.
Robertson tracking back and a little bit lighter than Canfield at the moment, but he does have a pretty solid 25-30 second lead.
Weight up is important, okay?
But tracking back down to the bottom. And this is the run to the finish, and Robertson out in front and making this look easy. A masterclass in
forward,
match
just a
racing,
click, go,
a
sit up.
masterclass
Go, go, go.
in M32
5,
sailing.
3,
And the crowds
2, 1.
all on their feet as he comes through his final jibe down towards the finish. Taylor Canfield coming back in just above his line, but it's going to be not enough. And he waves across to the crowd. Phil Robertson
go
coming
Phil,
through
yeah.
the line.
And there it is, folks. Race number 2 belongs to Phil Robertson again.
Great race there from Phil Robertson and Taylor Canfield. You can see how quickly the pressure builds on the man behind Robertson. A real masterclass in his performance.
And there's the frustration aboard, the body language from the crew of US 1 and Taylor Canfield now up against the ropes in a must-win match, race number 3, or he's out. And victory would go to Phil Robertson.
I mean, it's amazing how quickly it happens, isn't it? You think the first one, oh, you know, we're just opening up, we're just getting started. Then the second one comes along and bam, suddenly you're on the ropes. You're sailing for your career.
And, you know, for me, what was more impressive about Phil Robertson's win in that was the fact that he came from behind. He outsailed Taylor in the first race and outstarted him, but Taylor was ahead in that match. He lost it rather than Phil gaining it.
Well, let's go back, have a look at the rerun through that race. And there, as discussed, right off the start, Taylor Canfield starting in that windward position. It was a massive start, but Canfield just in front, and, well, he ended up rolling across.
So he's done everything he possibly could there, and into mark number 1, leading Phil Robertson.
So round the bottom gates, and this is where Taylor Canfield makes the decision to split. He takes that left-hand rounding off to the right-hand side of the racecourse, underneath the castle, underneath the grandstands, but he doesn't really make a gain here. In the middle of the racetrack, then hands the lead back. And up at the top, well, that was Phil Robertson's opportunity to pass.
And that's that right-hand shift that you were talking about in the middle of the beat, the strongest position for Robertson. Now here we are at the top of the track.
Well, Robertson tacking in, and you know what? I thought he was going to be in trouble on the inside there, but it shows quite how good Phil Robertson's judgment was. Just built speed and then started to give Taylor a little bit of a luff. And here he just brings Taylor Canfield up into the wind, then bears away, and he's just trying to make that bear away difficult for Canfield. You can see he managed his momentum and able to turn what would have been, a couple of feet lead into what was a safe downwind with a couple of boat lengths advantage. So, you know, great sailing from Robertson and, you know, ultimately the better of the set.
And that was a bit of a nosedive. Recall we saw that in the match, but Robertson saves it.
Well, that was enough, and Phil Robertson extending away, and he now has Taylor Canfield jammed up against the ropes. And we'll see how that American team responds as we move forward.
So speaking of moving forward, Simon, what can Taylor Canfield do mentally to try and regroup, throw these 2 losses off, and win the next match?
Well, you know, he's got to stay calm. But, you know, I'll tell you what, you don't have to hear it from me. We can actually go down to the man himself out there on the water, where I think we have Taylor Canfield right now. And Taylor, you know, up against it a little bit, 2-0 down. How does US 1 respond?
Yeah, you know, we're not too worried. You know, obviously 2 really close races and a really good battle in those races, and you know, just a few small mistakes and a tough start for myself in the first one. And you know, I'm not worried at all. You know, I know we've come back from this position many times before, so you know, we go out and work hard, and I think we'll be good to go.
And, you know, Taylor, just quickly on the practicalities, it kind of looks like you're taking your mainsail down there. Well, what's going on board the boat?
Yeah, the race officers have asked us to put a reef into the main, so you know, both boats coming down, and you know, we'll be on the reef here in about a minute or so, and back out and sailing.
Hey Taylor, Tucker Thompson here. Tell us the moment in that match where Robertson was able to catch up, because you had it under control initially.
Yeah, you know, I think we had one kind of tough tack on that first beat, and then obviously a tight cross up at the top, and we didn't do a very good job managing our windward mark situation. So, you know, I think just a small communication error from myself to the boys, and but you know, nothing huge, nothing big to change on board here. We're happy with how we're sailing.
Well, we know you know how to sail in top form, and the racing is so great out here in Marstrand. We want you to win this next one so you can keep it going more. We want more sailing from you guys this afternoon. Good luck.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tucker. Thanks, Shazi. US 1 out.
Well, there we go. So we're into reefs.
Well, listen, yeah, the boat really nicely just with that reef. Actually, as you can see, the sun just starting to break over Marstrand, and I think that those clearer skies, we can see some windier clouds on the horizon. I think the race officer sort of deciding, well, listen, we've still got potentially 3 more races here. Now's the time to pop a reef in, and that gives the spectators a chance to recharge their glasses. Pop a little sandwich out the hamper, and we'll be ready to get underway. It's actually here in our commentary position. There seems to be little bubbles blowing through. So all kinds of stuff going on in these gaps.
Everybody having a great time, and they should. The sun is finally out here in Marstrand, and the action is heating up as well as we get ready for race number 3 in the finals of the GKSS Match Cup Sweden. 2 of the best names in the business, Phil Robertson and Taylor Canfield, going head-to-head. And as we have seen, Robertson 2 up over Canfield in a first-to-win 3. And either way, the party will continue here in Marstrand well after the event. The official awards ceremony down on the dock. And this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, summer event here in Marstrand. Over 100,000 people. And most of them here on the rocks watching the sailing take place here in Marstrand. And Simon, it's no wonder everybody's excited now that the sun is finally out, because it stays up almost all night long here as well in the summertime.
Well, yeah, all of the day, all of the night. Now, we just asked into the studio. We have Chris Steele. Now, Chris, down from New Zealand, you obviously eliminated by Phil Robertson. What have you made of the finals so far?
Yeah, they're real sharp around the track shores there. I think, one thing I'm sort of noticing from the shore is that the jibes in particular are, really looking nice, and I think they're gaining quite a lot there. And they're getting that Jenica sheep bounced all the way in to the mark nice and early and popping that new hull out of the water. And I think, the US1 guys are, jibing the boat a little bit differently and maybe struggling a little bit to get that sheet all the way in. And, I think in that race, Phil did a nice job to close it up on the run, and then obviously right at the top there to get a piece and to take it to Taylor at the top was, pretty impressive. So, yeah, I think it's game on for sure. Taylor's going to definitely come out in this next one and have a go at him, because obviously 2-0 down now, he's got it all to do.
And, just looking at that top mark specifically, it looked really kind of complex. And we saw from quite a long way out, Phil Robertson was trying to slow, and sort of prepare for the arrival of Taylor Canfield in at the top. So, what from a long way out, was that something you were sort of seeing? Were you sort of understanding what he was putting together there?
Yeah, we actually had a similar situation with Phil yesterday, and he did something very similar to us. It's all about how you arrive at that top mark, and he came across on port, obviously Taylor on starboard with right of way, but he put himself in a position where he was tacking right in front. Taylor had to go into a high slow mode and got to a point where couldn't quite roll around the bows, and then Phil's in control here, because he, as we see there, he luffed him up and waited till he got the US1 guy slow, and you can see the twist in the US1 main, and that meant that the speed build was quite slow, and then he did a nice jibe set, and this was a very difficult move for both boats. And I thought originally Phil's one wasn't looking that great, but we saw took US1 guys a bit of time to get that done as well, and for me that was obviously the race.
Hey, Chris, I'm glad you mentioned the twist in the main. It's one thing I've noticed, and I'd need to get your
gained us here. Phil executed a nice tack, and then being able to hold US1 up at the top mark there, take control. We can see the twist in the mains a lot different. And that means that you've got a little bit more steering and control when you're tighter on the leech. And we saw here a nice bear away from Phil Robertson. Taylor Canfield took a lot longer to get the bows to come down, and then the guys went into a jibe set. And
it's really critical there in that acceleration to try and make sure that if you have momentum, if you have the speed, it's easier to execute that bear away, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And being the leeward boat there with which Robertson was, they basically just controlled the timing of the turn down. And when you're trying to turn these boats down with not a lot of speed, it's very difficult to do. And the Walker Racing guys there just had a little bit more pace, and or China One, I should say, a little bit more pace, and they were able to do that manoeuvre a little bit nicer. And yeah, they just went away with it.
Now we can
really be able to control the race, and providing they don't make any mistakes, it'll be very hard to pass.
And before you tip out the booth, do you think Phil's going to do it in 3, or do you think we'll see the US1 guys strike back?
Oh, yeah, it's a hard one to call. I think, from what I've seen, they just look a little bit tidy around the racetrack. I think actually before the matchup started, I thought, Taylor was actually looking really good. But, these guys, the boats, sailing the boats quite differently. And, and you never really know what the matchup's going to be like until you see them next to each other. And I think, you know, what we've seen is last couple of races, it looks like the way that the China One Ningbo guys are sailing the boat on Robertson's team is slightly better in those conditions. But like I said, now they've got a reef in, it's going to be all on. So I'd be surprised if it went 3-0. I think US One guys will probably try and grab one back here and you know, set it up for a final finish, and that's what we all want to see here on the shore and around the world.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic sailing. Listen, thanks, Chris. Great to have you in. And you know what? The guys now have their mains in place, and you know, we are getting ready. We are in countdown to sequence. 2 minutes until we should see that first preparatory signal. So, you know, the guys out there on the water making their final checks, if you like, running through that pre-start sequence, making sure they're aware of their ley lines. What are the jibes along? Have there been any changes to the course? Now we've got a reef in. Exactly what are all our moves at all the different stages of the racetrack? And you know, we are getting underway.
Simon, I know that you've done hundreds of these match races, including sailing here in Sweden. While we're waiting, I'm looking out over the race course, and to me it looks like we've got some new pressure, some very strong veins of breeze coming from the left-hand side of the course. Just watching these two teams practice, it shifted left to my eye a little bit. Do you think we're going to see teams favoring that upwind and downwind?
Well, you either see the wind kind of funneling through the sort of right-hand side, you know, the main entrance to the harbour, if you like, or as we're looking across there, in and across that left-hand side. Now, when the wind is in that left-hand side, the features that you see in the breeze are, you know, it becomes a lot shiftier and it becomes a lot puffier, and you're suddenly looking to sail a sort of puff-based strategy. When the wind's out of that right, you're ultimately looking at sailing in the bend around the island, and you know, we're sailing right in that transition between those two modes at the moment. And you know, I think we'll be seeing the tacticians particularly also emphasised now that there's a reef, that they'll be looking for the power. They'll be underpowered a little bit with the smaller mainsails, and so those puffs are going to become absolutely critical. So they almost need to tear up everything they knew about the racing in the previous race, and now look to adopt some very puff-based, you know, tactics-based strategy. Each beat will not be identical.
You know, it's funny, just as you were saying that, Taylor Canfield, I heard his onboard audio say, I feel underpowered here. He thinks that they've probably gone downrange on the reef a bit early, but then again, Matthias Dahlstrom setting up for the long haul. We could be 3 more races in if Taylor Canfield has anything to say about it. And the pre-start signals coming up.
Well, Canfield needs to pull one back. He needs to really open up that top drawer of his sailing trickery, of his match racing experience, and try and pull a rabbit out of the hat. Canfield down but not yet out, and my goodness, we know that US One team has what it takes to respond here. But Phil Robertson, inch perfect through this morning's match, you know, only dropping 1 race to Postma, and now 2-0 up in the finals against Canfield. 2016 champion here in Marstrand, world champion across the entire series of match racing, and exactly the same team, exactly the same venue. Unquestionably, he knows how to win.
He certainly does. Remember, Simon, we were down in Perth, Australia a couple months ago, the first event on the tour. Phil Robertson finished first place. And then in the Congressional Cup, he finished 4th, and that has him in the lead, ranked number 1 in the world right now, and for good reason. And now he's leading Taylor Canfield, former world ranked number 1, 2-0 in a first to win 3, or best of 5 match finals here as the GKSS Match Cup Sweden continues. Once again, if you're just joining us, live coverage here, broadcast worldwide. I'm Tucker Thompson, joined by Simon Shaw. You're looking at Taylor Canfield and Phil Robertson about to start race number 3 with Robertson 2 up over Taylor Canfield. Canfield in the gray boat, and that is Phil Robertson in orange. 40 seconds to go to the pre-start entry, the 2-minute warning. That's the signal boat and the starting line off to the right of screen. Look for Robertson to enter above it at 2 minutes, and Canfield there to the far left in gray to enter below. Canfield up against the ropes here, likely to be a bit more aggressive. Not only needs to win this start, but needs to stay ahead of Phil Robertson, something he was unable to do after leading race number 2 off the line. 10 seconds to go now. You can feel the tension building as the clock ticks down. The boat's winding up to full speed. Phil Robertson a little bit early to my eye. 2, 1. There's the gun and the start, and it's all clear. We're into the 2-minute zone.
Well, you can just see that reef having an impact. Both boats hulls in the water. Robertson turning down. Canfield now looking to take the lead.
Canfield fishtailing there to slow down and stay in along the rocks, not give Robertson room to get inside, using them as a bit of a pick.
Well,
130.
Yeah. I mean, this is just that classic boat-on-boat match racing that we have seen really over the decades here in Marstrand, coming along the rocks, and he's managed to get Phil Robertson boxed on that right-hand side. Taylor Canfield now looking to accelerate, and Robertson just trapped a little bit to windward, and now Taylor Canfield becomes massively the aggressor. Robertson still has time to try and escape, but at the moment Taylor Canfield has him exactly where he wants him.
Are you ready to attack, Trevor? Okay.
On board with Robertson. Canfield pushing from behind, less than a minute to go.
James Wabowski there with the Jenica, looking to try and use that Jenica to steer. Taylor Canfield coming up now. Has Phil Robertson timed this perfectly? He got the timing of his circle bang on in the first race, and I think he may have well done the same. Phil Robertson now looking for a jibe. Can he get it in? Taylor Canfield looking to try and follow. But with 35 seconds, I think that tack out from Robertson, absolutely inch perfect on timing. And Canfield deciding he hasn't got time to follow. He now goes for attack. Phil Robertson now looking to try and build in the lure position. 21 seconds to go. Robertson underneath the line of Taylor Canfield.
Now look for Canfield to dive down, try and go for the hook, but only 12 seconds to go, running out of time.
Robertson bringing the bow down now, and we should see that Jenica start to pop out. I think for Robertson, thinking he maybe had him locked, but in the final countdown into the final race, Phil Robertson really owning the start up at the top of the starting box and leading off the line, already 2-0 up. Canfield is going to have to find something in a luff. Robertson looking for a bit of a luff to hold out Canfield here. And the rack already coming up on US 1. And look for Phil Robertson to try and leave Canfield as stopped as he can in its windward position.
Phil Robertson not racing towards mark number 1, but holding up Taylor Canfield, looking to slow his opponent down. Canfield squeezing forward. Will Robertson throw another luff? It's almost bowed about. No, there goes Robertson, bowed down, and he takes an early lead into mark number 1. The set, and Canfield is right on his heels.
Robertson looking to try and use that. He timed that bear away perfectly with his Jenica deploy, and he's managed to turn, well, what? He's managed to grab an extra length out of that acceleration, but he is a little bit lower as well, so he's a little further forward, he's a little further down, and that's exactly where you want to be as you're leading around the mark, and the crowds rise onto their feet here in the grandstand.
Taylor Canfield with the early jibe, trying to close the door and force the decision of Phil Robertson. Robertson will extend to ley line into the leeward marks, and he's made a gain over Canfield.
2, 1, jiving.
Setting up again here, okay?
Real masterclass from Canfield here.
Yeah, agree.
But it has gone a bit lighter down at the bottom.
3, hold, 5.
Big gain for Robertson as Canfield jibes twice and now looks to head down to the leeward marks, and that's exactly where Robertson is, already rounding.
Or not. Too late.
There's Canfield again, kind of chipping at his crew a little bit.
Stand by. 3, 2,
Now,
1, go for up, please.
Will Robertson head across to that right-hand side? Taylor Canfield, sorry. I think he will, rounding the opposite mark. And Phil Robertson picking this time the right-hand side. The breeze further round left. You can see that in the angle of the boats downwind.
3,
Rotate her
2,
on a bit,
1. Tracking now.
Fly high. 3.
Canfield
Yeah, good. Take it off.
over on the left. Phil Robertson just making the tack right in front of the grandstands here. And it looks like Taylor Canfield's made a bit of a gain on the left-hand side. The boat's coming back together now.
Keep it fast here, boys. Still not on a mode yet.
We talked about how tricky it would be to build the speed with these smaller mains. And I think out of that tack, Taylor Canfield has made a massive gain now, drawing back to what is only a couple of lengths behind, and it is gained back on here in Marstrand.
For the first time, I can hear tension from Phil Robertson's voice. He's still in the lead, still out in front. But Canfield is on the attack and shifting to the right-hand side in the middle of the racetrack, where, as you say, Simon, that is a strong place to be if you're going to tack onto starboard. But in a left-hand shift, Canfield continuing, and he's making gains all the time to Phil Robertson. Just listen to Robertson's tension on board. He is not happy with what he sees.
I mean, they are over on that left-hand side and they are super light. The decision to take the Reese just feels tough. It's really changed the game out there on the racecourse.
This next cross could be the moment of the match, particularly for Canfield. Has he caught up enough to get a piece of Robertson?
And here we go, Taylor Canfield bringing the bow down, and we've got a dial in the middle of the racetrack. Canfield has managed to break back. And now Phil Robertson with the duck coming out of the right-hand side. Canfield has gone somewhere, found a way back into this match on this, second upwind.
Spectacular gains for Taylor Canfield. That's what he has to do to stay in this regatta if he has any hopes of topping the current world champion, Phil Robertson. Now he gets his bow to the left-hand side into a left-hand shift. That's the good news. The bad news is his opponent, Phil Robertson, is in a massive puff from the right.
You just see the game really change. We talked about the strategy in this race being a lot more puff-based, about trying to Canfield, and we have another lead change, but rounding almost even Stevens and breaking for opposite sides of the course. Robertson in the orange heading off to the left. Taylor Canfield fighting to stay in this competition, sailing off to the right. Which tacticians have made the right choices? Which way will those Nordic Marstrand wind gods really throw the dice out onto this table of match racing that we see in front of us? And who will come out on top?
Robertson has jibed onto port to connect with his opponent, but Taylor Canfield has made a massive gain. That's the good news. The bad news is trouble on his Jenniker. He can't get it underway. There goes Robertson crossing in the lead.
Wow, and you could just almost hear a sense of resignation in his voice there from Canfield.
It's not over yet, though.
Oh, you have an override.
Well, he still can't get that Jenniker in.
Now, there's an override on the Jenniker, so the sheet is not all the way in, and they're going to be in trouble in the next jibe. Meanwhile, Phil Robertson will jibe clear, and he has regained the lead. Here comes the jibe from Canfield. Let's see if they've sorted it out. Yes, they have. Now they have to catch up. There goes Robertson out in front.
Well, down past the line, in towards the bottom gate. Phil Robertson really has this race under control now. That mistake from Canfield proving very costly. It looked like they were going to be bound to bow out of that. And now Robertson has extended into a massive lead, heading off to the left-hand side of the racecourse.
It is one thing to have caught up from behind and then pass Phil Robertson, but then to have a crew error screw it up, and now to be trailing by so much, you can hear the frustration aboard.
And we just very briefly got Keith Swinton just dipping into the commentary position. I know you've done a lot of time in these M32s, you've done a lot of time racing on this World Match Racing Tour here in Marstrand. You know, what can Taylor Canfield do coming around that bottom mark? Where do you find as a skipper that energy to try and come back in a match like this?
Well, obviously, I think Taylor and his team will be pretty disappointed with that downwind. They did a good job on the last upwind to sort of get back into the race. And obviously, they had a problem with the Jenniker sheet at some point there on the jibe, which has really, really cost them. And you can see now Phil Robertson has really got a commanding lead. So, you know, at this point, it's probably a lot of frustration on board Taylor's boat. They just got to try and, you know, chip away. It's really a game of meters. And if you get frustrated and just try to do too much, sometimes that can be costly. So you just got to kind of chip away and try and get some of those meters back on the race course.
Thanks, Keith. While Taylor will be definitely looking to dig deep, he needs to find something from somewhere.
2, 1, tacking.
And to add insult to injury, Phil Robertson tacking in a beautiful puff of breeze. Out in front, there's Canfield. Just
might have
looking
been a
for
little underdone on
any opportunity to get back in this match. He did it before. Can he do it again before the finish?
Okay, up now. You're centered. Maybe just rotate her in a bit, eh?
It was a big left-hand shift that got Canfield back into this match on the last upwind leg. Now Canfield is trying to extend all the way to the right of Phil Robertson and make a gain. There is breeze out there, but Robertson has such a massive lead that will be a tall order.
Yeah.
Canfield going all the way into the exclusion zone. Attacking now, and he does find a strong puff of breeze just past the signal boat. Here it comes.
Well, all the time, Robertson moves closer to what is one of the most prestigious trophies in all of world match racing. I mean, the trophy's nearly as big as Phil Robertson. I mean, it is massive.
Bell's coming down here, boys. Go fast.
He actually asked on the dock, he said to me
cutting him off.
Last year, because this was the World Championships, we had the World Tour trophy.
Long way, Jimmy, big cross here, okay?
And here we go. It's actually all tightened right back up. All talk of trophy forgotten. Phil Robertson now looking for a cross. And it is game back on. This is the last chance. Somehow, from somewhere, Taylor Canfield has found a way to close this game right up. But Robertson already on the leg to the finish. It is going to take another twist of fate.
And here comes Canfield from the left. He's got to squeeze up to make that mark. He's done it.
Full focus.
But now he's going to have to find even more magic from that left-hand side on this final run to catch Robertson, who sets up for a jibe. Here we go.
This is it. Canfield looking to try and find something. Sailing well, sailing fast over on that left-hand side. He's going well in grey. But can he find a way to break back? Coming through his jibe now. Pointing down towards Robertson. Just one more jibe for Robertson as he comes down towards the finish.
This is the moment Phil Robertson has been waiting for since last year when he last won this regatta and $1 million cash prize to claim the World Championship.
3, 2,
and here comes the final jibe to claim this regatta.
Coming down and in underneath the grandstands in front of the crowds lined with people, the VIP hospitality, all of Marstrand, all of World Match Racing Tour sailing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Robertson and China One Ningbo have won the GKSS Match Cup Sweden.
What a result and what a champion. We have a repeat victory here for Phil Robertson. 2 years he has taken this crown. And I wonder whether we're going to start calling that Robertson Hill over on the left-hand side. It won't be any longer called Hansen Hill.
You might have to call it Robertson Fjord here in Marstrand. He has definitely owned the water today. Phil Robertson proving why he is the champion.
And Taylor Canfield through the line, taking the applause of the crowd. But really, Robertson has wiped the floor with US 1 sailing here today. A emphatic, solid victory.
Well, Taylor Canfield had his moments and had his options, and every time it looked good, this man, Phil Robertson, closed the door and locked him out.
Nice one, lads.
And there he is waving to Taylor Canfield.
Yeah, cheers.
Here comes the flag for China One Ningbo. There it is, your champion, Phil Robertson, here in Marstrand.
Wow, what a performance, what a race, and what a team. They have really burst into this World Sailing Amphitheatre of success since winning the World Match Racing Tour. You know, not really coming in as favourites into 2016, but wow, they claim the title and they look on track for yet another trophy.
Yeah, got you, Mikey.
Just teeing up an interview with our winner here in Marstrand, China One Ningbo, Phil Robertson. I believe he's ready for us. Simon, here we go to the winner.
So down onto the water, Phil Robertson. You've won that massive trophy. You've got your name here etched onto the water in Marstrand for yet another year. How does it feel?
Yeah, we're obviously pretty happy, mate. I mean, the boys dug pretty deep all week and they came in pretty hot and tight. So, yeah, massive effort from the team and, yeah, we're pretty stoked. But, I mean, this is what we came here to do, is to try and defend our title here, and to do it is a pretty good feeling. So, happy days.
And if you look behind you, Phil, you see there's a banner and it says Hanson Hill. I wonder if this is going to be kind of Robertson Mountain from now on, or perhaps kind of like Ningbo Mount.
Yeah, a little bit of a Ningbo Mountain wouldn't go astray out here in Marstrand, but no, it's good. It's an amazing place to sail with the spectators, and obviously Hanson Hill up here behind us is a pretty iconic landmark. So, no, look, we're happy, and it's been a good event, and obviously Taylor and his team sailed a very good event as well. So, well done to them, and yeah, cheers.
Hey, Phil, Tucker Thompson here. First of all, congratulations, and second of all, speaking of Taylor Canfield, he had his moments to attack you multiple times, but each time you were able to close the door. How were you able to do that?
Yeah, it's look, to be honest, we didn't do anything special there. I think we started really, really well and had a good idea of what was going on in the start box, and got away from him in that last start and pulled the trigger at the right time when we were luffing him. And thankfully, he actually caught up a lot. We got stuck in a bit of a hole and a little bit underpowered with the reefs, but yeah, obviously he had a bit of a crewing error there somewhere, which I'm sure they're not too stoked about, but nice to see that happen behind us.
Well, a win's a win, but you and your crew have definitely earned it. Congratulations, Phil Robertson, the GKSS Match Cup Sweden champion.
Nice, thanks guys.
He likes the sound of that, doesn't he, Tucker? I mean, what a performance. You know, he said he didn't do anything special there, but I think what he means by that is if you're striving for perfection, then that's kind of what that was. I mean, you know, yeah, they made a couple of mistakes, but it was a really solid performance. And like he said, those starts did prove critical, and you know, they both had their moments, but Phil really kind of took it to Taylor at a couple of those times and made it stick, and particularly in that last race, well, we needed to see Taylor Canfield respond. Robertson, you know, leading off the line, and you know, that puts you under pressure. If you're 2-0 down and you're behind at the first mark, then you know you've got it all on.
Well, you've also got to wonder, you know, Taylor Canfield, had it not been for that crew error, may have been able to win that match, but he was still 2 down to a very dominant team. Could he have been able to win 2 more? I'm not sure, considering how Phil Robertson and his crew have sailed. And
you see the way that momentum shifts in a match, and you know, it wasn't dissimilar to Taylor Canfield and Ian Williams earlier this morning. You know, it comes down to very small differences in the team, like aspects of momentum. You know, it's all to play for. And you know what, this is a moment. You can see Phil Robertson just in front of the grandstands here in Marstrand, and you know, he is taking the applause of the crowd. He's really, you know, celebrating with the people here, you know, and there is nothing really better than that moment in your sailing career where you're in front of everybody, just taking it in, drinking in that victory, you know. And I tell you what, it tastes so sweet. You only get moments like that occasionally in your career, and you know, Robertson's had more than his fair share in the last 2 years, and you know, rightfully, you know, I suppose dominating, you know, the last 2 years of M32 World Match Racing Tour sailing.
Pretty impressive. He came on the scene. I think he actually surprised a lot of his competitors early on. He's got a very relaxed style. You know, he's relatively new to the game overall. Some of these guys like Ian Williams been sailing, and Taylor Canfield, for so long on the tour. Ian having won the world 6 times. And then all of a sudden, Phil Robertson shows up last year, as you said earlier in the broadcast, peaked at the right time here in Marstrand and won that regatta here, won the World Championship. But then he's just proven that that was not a fluke. He's done it yet again. He won in Australia, and now he's just won here again in Marstrand.
I mean, you know, unquestionably not a fluke. I mean, Phil's been doing this, you know, quite a long time as well. But I think Phil has, if you like, a lot of that understanding of match racing, a lot of that, the mechanics and the understanding of the game are really fundamental, like Ian Williams. But also, he has that dynamic kind of the seat of the pants sailing that he gets, and also that's like reinforced 4 times over with his crew, which all have that same sort of Kiwi spirit of sailing, you know. And you know, for me, Phil, I mean, you know, I was actually talking to Carl Langford, you know, Oracle wing trimmer and sailing tactician from GAC Pindar, and you know, he would say, well, listen, we all know when Phil is at the top of his game, he's unbeatable, he's unplayable. And you know, it was one of those things where you're suddenly going, wow, when people like that respect someone at this level that much, then you know you're looking at a champion.
Definitely looking at a champion. Headed to the main stage for the award ceremony, but before he does, Let's relive the moments of that match, Simon, and find out how he won this regatta.
You know, as he said, it kind of came down to that start. And, you know, out in front, that doesn't look like the start. There it is. So Phil Robertson there just controlling Taylor Canfield. He snatched control in that pre-start slightly earlier in the sequence. And, you know, that he just went on there. Then you see him go for a little bit of a laugh. He, you know, really open-minded about what he was trying to pull off around there on the race course. James Wozbowski there. So this there, the furl and the bear away. So full action, all arms, giving it absolutely everything. And they just, in that snap of the Jenica, just bought themselves what? It's a couple of lengths forward. It was a length forward, but critically, it was about a length to leeward as well. So that put them in a really safe spot for the downwind. And when you're trying to hold on to the wind, that was absolutely first class.
And then we go upwind, and here comes that dial.
Yeah, well, here Taylor Canfield did an amazing job of breaking back. And they looked for a little bit of a dull and then kind of brought that bow right back up. Phil Robertson now taking the right-hand side. And, you know, right back at the top, he took that right-hand side again and actually crossed. But then even Stevens around the top and into the downwind.
This
what was a
Canfield's
critical
moment,
jibe.
But what happened here with the crew work?
Well, they're bringing on that new sheet. And you can see they're just getting a bit of a rider on that leeward winch. So, you know, it ultimately tying the sheet in a knot down on that bottom winch. And you can see them desperately trying to sort of fix it up. And then on it comes again. So a little bit of a rider perhaps on that windward sheet. And here you can still see there's a problem. They can't use the winch, so they're actually man wrestling it out. You can see there the knot. They're trying to break out.
Yeah, the override. That's Hayden Goodrick trying to get the override out. And once it was out, it was all over.
Yeah, and I think, you know what, they couldn't recover from that. That was too much of a lead and through the line. And look at that cheer. I mean, you know, that makes, you know, it warms the heart. That is what sport is all about. And, you know, absolutely first class. And, you know, a worthy winner. He will have his hands on that trophy. He'll have that trophy above his head. The champagne will be spraying. And everybody in Marstrand will be looking at that stage and going, the right man won today. First class.
And all the crowds here on shore were treated to quite a show. 3-0, Phil Robertson, your new champion, as the sun shines here on Marstrand. And that wraps up.
Look at that. Look at that.
Amazing event. Look at it. Look at all the people. They're all headed down to the awards ceremony to see one man receive his next trophy here on the World Match Racing Tour. And all credit go to the China 1 Ningbo crew, Will Tiller, Stuart Dodson, James Wozbowski, and Phil Robertson. You heard him say earlier that any one of them could win races. They're all helmsmen. Oh. And that's an interesting choice of crew.
Well, you know, Will Tiller, I remember, racing against him on the World Match Racing Tour when I was sailing. You know, he's very experienced. James Wozbowski, you know, and they're all really athletic as well. And, you know, totally awesome sailing.
Now, earlier in the broadcast, we were able to be joined by one of Taylor Canfield's former crew. You've raced a lot with him. You've won dozens and dozens of championships. Mikey Ray. Mike, first of all, thanks for coming back to the broadcast here. But what do you make of Taylor's sailing comparatively to Phil Robertson? I know it's frustrating for you to watch your teammate out there wanting to win, trying to win, but ultimately not being able to seal the deal.
Yeah, you know, Tucker, it's always tough to watch that. A couple issues they had around the course. Looks like they had an override or something in their Jenica sheet, the one downwind, which when they're leading and didn't help anything out. So I know the boys are probably a little disappointed, but they'll bounce back.
I'm sure they will. Taylor's certainly a champion, and this is not the last time we've seen him, of course. Many more events left to go on the World Match Racing Tour. But when you compare the sailing that you've just seen, you're here helping him out on shore, coaching. What are the couple key things that you're going to point out to tell Taylor to improve and the boys to improve for the next one?
Yeah, Phil he sails the boat a little bit smoother and cleaner all the time in the tacks and jives, and I think it's just something that Taylor needs to focus on and improve and hopefully sail better in the next event.
So for you, it's a bit of a maneuvering issue and perhaps a little bit of boat speed.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, there you have it. Mikey Ray, thank you very much.
I mean, there you go. I mean, that's it, you know, harsh but fair. I mean, it's, you know what, you there's always something to work on, you know, and actually that applies whether you're that boat in front or that boat behind, you know, and I think that's the sort of spirit. What's important for me is that Taylor takes away, he's made the final of this event. You know, and you know, that's a really solid result in itself. He took down Ian Williams this morning, you know, and you know, it's not time to tear anything up. You know, he sailed spectacularly. The 2 new additions onto that team this year looks to be gelling well for me. And, you know, I'd actually, in some respects, like to see more of the same from US 1. You know, just keep that same approach, keep that same energy. He's got a sort of renewed hunger to win, if you like. And, you know, I'm looking forward to Russia. We're in 3 weeks' time. We're over in Russia for the 4th stage of this regatta. And, you know, I think it's going to be a real eye-opener, like who closes out there.
It certainly will be. And, you know, we've talked a lot about what Taylor could do better, but I think we have to shift the focus back to our winner, Phil Robertson. I mean, just pretty much inch perfect all the way around the racetrack. And you know, Canfield never had an option to win a race, or if he did, Robertson quickly closed it back down. 3-0 to Canfield is no easy task, and there he is. And he had that flag up after the finish line. You have to wonder if they actually raced with that flag on
I think
board.
they did, yeah. But, you know, and, you know, let's not also forget what else we've seen here in Marstrand. We've seen, you know, a real arrival of PJ Posma as a new star, like rising up on this World Tour. And we've seen David Gilmour, you know, 2 real picks for me going forward. You know, first-class new teams on this World Match Racing Tour. We are getting ready to get underway with the prize giving any second. Well, the clouds starting to gather down on the dock opposite the boat. But celebrations continuing, and you know, and he's earned this. Celebrations.
Kiwis don't like to high five, do they?
No, you know,
those the US 1 boys, congratulations, and they look deflated. Except for Taylor, that's pretty. Look at that.
Fucking over one for better.
There you go. So, top 3 teams will be taking the stage momentarily for the official prize-giving ceremony, the GKSS Match Cup Sweden.
Now, all the teams there. Garth from GAC Pindar just offering his congratulations.
Are you on me, Gribbo?
Well, what a regatta, what sailing, you know, what crowds. You know, thank everyone for coming over to watch this spectacular exhibition of match racing here on Marstrand.
And all credit to the organizers here, the GKSS here in Marstrand. They put this event on for 23 years. Every detail was perfect, right down to the awards ceremony. So here we go, folks. The crowd is ready, the sailors are ready, the champagne is about to be sprayed all across Marstrand. So now we throw it down to the official prize-giving ceremony.
Hi, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the prize-giving ceremony of JKSS Match Cup Sweden 2017. I'm glad you understood that you were going to applaud there. Welcome also to you who are watching through our live broadcast. My name is Frida, and I have the great honor to guide you through this prize-giving ceremony. Thank you all for being here. And thank you all, you guys who made this week to what it became. Thank you to the staff, to the sponsors, to the race committee. Thank you to the skippers. And of course, thank you to you guys, the people of Marstrand. Without you, there wouldn't be a week. And what a week we've had, huh? Great weather. Notice that the sun come out right to the prize-giving ceremony like we want it. We've had some great racing. We've almost never seen this good of pairing. It's been extremely close in just about all races. And we finally have got a winner. And before we start giving out flowers and medals and money and bring the real stars of this week up here on stage, so hey, let me get you a mic, Robert. How are you feeling?
Perfect. This has been an extraordinary week, wouldn't you say so?
Yes, and I don't think anyone would argue. How proud are you, representative of GKSS?
You cannot be more proud than all the things that all the people have been doing this week. And the sailors has been really good. Lot of good racing and a really good behavior, good sportsmanship. I think that's important as well.
Definitely. And let's get this show on the road. Are you guys ready? Yes? Are you ready? Okay, good. Because on third place in GKSS Match Cup Sweden 2017, after an exciting petite finale and a marvelous week of sailing, we have 6-time world champion Ian Williams with his crew members Garth Ellingham, Kyle Langford, and Richard Sydenham. GAC Pindar!
Thank you, far too kind. Can I get an encore? Do you want more? Cook and roll with the Brooklyn boys. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. Now what the hell are you waiting for? After me, there should be no more. So for one last time.
Hi, Ian, how are you feeling?
Oh, well, of course it's nice to end on a win, but we're disappointed with third, really. But all credit to the guys ahead of us, Phil Robertson and team especially, and also Taylor Canfield. They did a great regatta.
If you were to sum up the week.
Oh, we've had a fantastic time here again at GKSS Match Cup Sweden. It really is the highlight of the season for us, and we just love coming here.
Okay, well, best of congratulations. Give GAC Pindar a huge applause. Okay, with all those pictures being taken, I am going to move on to second place, winning the silver medals of GKSS Match Cup Sweden 2017. Give it up for skipper Taylor Canfield and his members Trevor Bird, Cy Thompson, Hayden Goodrick, and US1 Sailing Team. We got medals and flowers. I think you can keep that applause going for a little longer, people. Taylor, how do you feel?
Oh, obviously, not on top of the world right now, but a little disappointed for sure. But yeah, it was a really close battle, and those guys sailed better than us today. So hats off to China Wing Nimbo and those guys, and Phil Robertson and his team. Got to thank my boys as well. They did an incredible job. We fought hard to get to the finals here this week. Cy Thompson, Hayden Goodrick, and Trevor Bird. And, thanks to our supporters, obviously, that get us here and make it all happen. And, we're just, we're happy with the silver medal, though. It's a great week for US1.
Okay. We want to congratulate big time, though. Congratulations. Okay, thank you guys. Whoa! We've got a sailor coming up next year, huh? And now, people, the moment we've all been waiting for, the winner of JKSS Match Cup Sweden 2017. I give you defending champion, skipper Phil Robertson of New Zealand, with his team Will Tiller, Stuart Dodson, and James Dubarski. China One Nengbo.
She said, we get married at the mile. I said, look, you need to cry for you bow. Come and meet me in the bathroom style. And show me why you deserve to have it all. That's your credit. Ain't chance. What's she order? Fish fillet. Yo, we so
Okay, Phil, I have to ask you before you get the flowers. How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, we're very obviously pretty happy. Thank you all for coming out, for bringing the sun out as well. That's nice for this afternoon. But no, we're happy. We've had a great event and a lot of fun. And I think, as always, Marston's turned it on again.
And I think there's some more prizes coming up for you.
And there it is. A well-earned celebration for Phil Robertson and China One Ningbo. And that wraps up our live coverage of the 2017 GKSS Match Cup Sweden right here in Marstrand. Join us for the next event on the World Match Racing Tour, the 1st through 6th of August in St. Petersburg, Russia. For Simon Shaw and our entire GKSS Match Cup Sweden television crew, I'm Tucker Thompson. Thanks for joining us, and so long from Marstrand.